This is page 421, number 33. It's a shipping charge program. So let me just address a few housekeeping things up top. And then, of course, here you would put a description of the problem. And we're not going to really use anything probably other than IOStream and IOManip, but it's always a good idea to keep the string. And CC type, when you start getting into characters, is very helpful. So what we need here tells us that we need two parallel arrays. One is going to be the order, and one is going to be the shipping charge in there. So what we need is two integer arrays, or in this particular case, we can use an integer. It is a flat shipping charge, so we can use two integer arrays. And apparently that'll work because the number of items is going to be an even number, and the shipping charge is going to also be an integer. So we're going to do... Now, what I would do is I would put items and then ordered. Or you could put quantity order in here so you know that they're parallel arrays. Parallel arrays just means it's the same integer, it's the same type, same data type, and has the same amount of elements. So we don't really need to worry too much about that. So I'll just call it, should change it to quantity ordered. And we need to put in max items, which we'll define. And okay, we don't have max items defined yet, so that's why it's not showing up. So let's go and make max items. I know I can do this. And for right now, let's just make it 5. So now we have something spelled wrong, obviously, because it's in there. Constant integer max items, quantity ordered, shipping, which is spelled wrong. So let me hit the enter key and see if it disappears. So I'm either spelling something wrong and not noticing it, or I have an integer array that's not deciding to work. So I'm going to compile this. When you get this, compile it to see if you get any errors. So I'm just going to click on compile, and let me see if I get any errors. Which I am. Alright, item constant must be filled in here, max items. Oh, okay. Here it is. Equals 5. There we go. When you're looking at something and you don't see what you did wrong, compile it and let it give you those nasty messages. So now we're going to create a function, get quantity ordered. So that will help us in there. And let's go and create that function right now. So if we were to do an IPO, so let's do the input, processing, and output. So for input, we need the quantity order. Processing, we're going to get the shipping charge or calc. probably, since it's a fixed one, remember get is very careful. Get usually means get from the actual user, where calc is really calculating. And here in this particular case, we're technically calculating. And output, we're going to put the shipping charge. And we'll put the quantity ordered and shipping charge. So now we know the input quantity ordered for each item. And we also, since we have process, so here, how are we going to do this? We're going to do this with a function that's going to get, we'll do an integer function, to get the quantity. So we know we need one function there. And here we're going to return the shipping charge, which is going to be an integer, and we'll calculate the shipping charge. And the output is going to be both of these will be in the same thing, a void print the info. So that would take care of both this and the shipping charge. So now we know we need 3 functions in there. And a lot of times I will put in another item, which would be a V, variables needed. And I also sometimes put in the calculations. In other words, what is the actual calculation of something? So for the fencing thing, the calculation would be the diameter, and you would put how you would do the diameter, and you would calculate the actual cost by multiplying that. So let's see, calculation. Notice my spelling has not gotten any better since the last time we met. So now we know what we're doing. We already created the input in here. The variables needed would be the quantity and the shipping. And we'll leave the rest of the calculation on its own. So let's go and start making these things here. So we need a function, and we'll call it, since it's an integer, we'll just call it get quantity. And we don't really need to pass anything. And then we're going to need a integer, and we'll be calc shipping. And here we have to pass the integer. And we're probably going to put the chart inside of the calc shipping. And then we need a void function that will be print info, or whatever you want to call it. And in this particular case, we're going to have to pass 2 integer arrays. So that takes care of these. So let's write get quantity. And we also need another variable, which would be quantity. So, and here it is here. So let's create another integer. And we could have put it on after the shipping charge as well. And we'll just call it quantity ordered. And be careful of the fact that quantity ordered and quantity order. So we might want to just evaluate that and just call it quantity. And in this particular case, we don't need it. But I wanted to show you to it there the options that you have. So let's leave that alone right now. And then the same thing with the shipping. So first thing we need to do is get quantity. So what we're going to do here, obviously, is write the function. And here we're going to put in an integer, quantity, Then we're going to put in a prompt, see out how many ordered. Then we're going to get the quantity and simply return a quantity. I must have spelled something wrong. All right, quantity, what did I spell wrong? Oh, wish I could get this to automatically add those for me. So all we're doing is asking the user how many ordered, and we're getting it and returning it back to the calling function. So now we need the function to actually call it, and we're not going to use this integer quantity. I just wanted to show you another way of doing the same thing, not the way I would do it. This is the way I would do it. I would put start with a for loop for integer I equals 0, I less than max items, and of course the world famous I++. And then what we're going to do is quantity ordered. Okay, I see there's some things in the chat, but I don't have it open, so give me a second and I'll look at them. Quantity ordered of I equals, just get the quantity. The other way would be quantity equals get quantity, and then quantity ordered of I equals quantity. But that's doing double work. To me, this makes more sense to just do it. So I'm going to get rid of this quantity here. But that is always an option if it makes it clearer for you. All right, so now that we're back here, we have the quantity. So now what we need to do is calculate the shipping charges. So we have to do the same thing again. We're going to, and we can actually do that in one particular function in here. So we need to calc shipping. Are we calculating shipping? So in this particular case, we actually can do it. Let's do it two different ways. Let's do it by calling it each time. And then what we're going to do is shipping charge of I equals calc why is this not showing? Am I spelling something wrong? And in this particular case, we're passing an integer. So all we have to do is pass the quantity ordered of I. So now what we're doing is we're doing it one at a time. Another way of doing it would be to create a void and call it calculate shipping charges or whatever you want. Pass the entire array and do this in here. So either way is, to me, is acceptable, whatever way you feel more comfortable with. And I'll create another array that does the shipping charges. We just use a different name. So now we need to create the calc shipping. So we have to use a if else statement. So where our options are minimum order 1 is 15, 50 is up to 50's 10, up to 100 is 5, and so the first thing we want to do is work from the highest to the lowest. So we would go if quantity is greater than 101, and we need to return a shipping charge. Integer shipping charge. So if it's greater than 101, then shipping charge equals 0. And you always want to start from the highest, so this way we don't have to do if it's greater than this and less than this, greater than this and less than this. So here we start from the very top. Well, if it's not, then what we're going to do is check to see else if quantity is greater than our next level is 51. Then shipping charge equals $5. Else, if quantity is greater than 11, then shipping equals 10. Else, shipping equals 15. Now, normally you'd want to put brackets around each one here, but we're just doing one simple line, so that's acceptable like that if you want. If you're more comfortable, you can do this. So that'll work. So now what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the shipping for each one. And in this particular case, now we need to return the shipping charge. So here we are, shipping charge of I equals calc. So that should take care of this. So let's do one more thing. We're going to write a program, the print info. We're just going to print it. So let's do this down here, print info. And now we need two things in here, and we'll just call it quantity and shipping. And again, it's as simple for I equals integer. I missed the integer. Let's go back to integer. I less than max items. I plus plus. So we're going to see out quantity. We'll probably do this as well. And And I'm hitting a T, that's a tab, just to make it line up a little better. And then we'll do shipping. What happened to my little thing here? The infamous not responding. This happens to me all the time in Visual Studio. Shipping, and then shipping of I. And then, of course, we need an end out. So now let's run it. We have only 5 items, so it shouldn't take too long to do, and we'll see if I did this correctly. How many ordered? So let's do 5, 10, 60, 150, and 33. And that did not work because we never called it. So let's try this. We need to print info. And make sure you pass these things in a proper order. So we're doing quantity ordered, and we're doing shipping charge. And let's try this again. And 60. So we should get one of each. Alright, so quantity 5 is shipping 15. Quantity 12 is shipping 10, correct. 150 should be 0. Then quantity 33, which is between 11 and 50, is 10. And quantity 5 is, quantity 60 is 5. So that looks like that worked. And then you would try it with different values just to make sure. So let's take a look at this. So we could increase this to whatever we want and not have to make any changes. We're getting all of the items here one at a time. And we're putting it in there. If you wanted to, you could put it, make it a void and call it get quantities. Then you would put in that function for I equals this. Basically, you would do it down here and do, let me close this here. You would do for I equals 1 to max items, and you would do this over here. Now, we're not doing any error checking in this particular case, but normally you would want to make sure that you're going to get a value greater than 0. So we know how to do that, so I'm not going to do that in there unless you want me to. If you do, then let me know and I will. Then we went in here, and for each one we got the getting the quantity, and that would be basically the same thing if we choose to do so. We could just get them all at one time by calculating that instead of doing it one at a time. We're doing the shipping. You could also do, get shippings in there and just do it from one at a time. Instead of doing it each one, you would just do for I equals 0 to max items, and then you would just if integer quantity blah 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 blah. So you could do that as well. Either way is fine. And then we just went in here and printed the shipping charges. So that's what that one takes. So let's go back up top here again, and you can see we have our input, the quantity for each item. That's what we're doing. Technically, we need to input if you want to get technical, you would put in the shipping, because we need to get the shipping in as well. So let's put the input has to be shipping, but it doesn't necessarily mean user input. So you could put in here if you wanted to, and then you would do a from table. So you can see that you're making notes kind of to yourself in here on how you're going to do it. So if you start off with this, list everything, and you're going to probably have to add to it as you go. Oh, I forgot about this. I forgot about that. Just go back up here and add to it in here. What are we doing? We're processing. We're getting and calculating the shipping charge in here. You could also put in there, get the processing could technically be getting the quantity from user. All these things, the more you put in there, the easier it should be for you to write the program, because now you have a blueprint of what you're actually doing without actually doing it. Then you could write, if you wanted to, write on a piece of paper, get quantity, calculate shipping from table, print it, and however way you want to do it, whatever makes it easier for you. Then remember down in here, the purpose of this function is to get the quantity from the user, and whatever in here. Purpose of this function is to calculate the shipping based upon a table, and then you could actually put the table down in there so you can see what they want. You can always make constants for levels if you want, in case you're using this more often and you don't want to hard code these in there in case you have something else that you have to calculate using these things. So that's pretty much all it is, simply by breaking it down into these particular steps. So that's it. So I will take questions now.